It started like any other neighborhood meeting, folding chairs on the lawn, lukewarm lemonade in plastic cups, and the usual complaints about trash bins and lawn heights. But no one could have predicted the secret that would soon turn this quiet, HOA-run suburb completely upside down. Tensions were already high that afternoon as residents gathered in front of the community clubhouse. The HOA president, Mr. Langford, known for his strict rules and pressed polos, stood at the front, clipboard in hand, prepared to enforce another list of regulations. But what no one realized was that the man they thought they knew was hiding something massive. For years, Mr. Langford had controlled the neighborhood with an iron fist, fining people for mailbox colors, banning backyard chickens, even sending warning letters for holiday decorations going up too early. Most neighbors saw him as a retired bureaucrat who had too much time on his hands. But everything changed when a moving truck pulled up next door to the Jenkins family. The crew wasn't ordinary. They wore black polos with no logos, moved in expensive, unmarked crates, and refused to answer questions. Then came the rumors. Whispers of strange visitors, late-night car arrivals, and a security system installed that rivaled Fort Knox. All of it pointed back to one person, Mr. Langford. People started paying more attention. Someone caught a glimpse of a luxury sports car hidden under a tarp in his garage. Another neighbor swore they saw him being driven around in a black SUV with tinted windows. And when a curious teen flew a drone over his backyard, the footage revealed a private pool, marble patio, and what looked like an underground entrance hidden beneath the shed. That footage never made it online because the drone mysteriously crashed the next day. The real bombshell, though, came from an unexpected source, a confused delivery driver who tried to drop off a package meant for Langford Enterprises. That's when it all started unraveling. Who really was Mr. Langford? Why had he chosen to hide among regular folks in a modest suburb? And what was he running from or preparing for? This story isn't just about money or mystery. It's about secrets buried in plain sight, power disguised as simplicity, and how one neighborhood discovered their so-called rule enforcer was actually the billionaire next door. What they found next will leave you speechless. Before all this started, most neighbors barely gave Mr. Langford a second thought. He was just the HOA president, a retired guy with too many rules and way too much free time. People joked that he probably slept with the HOA bylaws under his pillow. But looking back, there were always small hints that something didn't add up. His clothes were always expensive, even if subtle. His watch didn't match the rest of his simple lifestyle. And his yard, while perfectly within HOA code, looked like it belonged in a luxury home magazine. At the time, everyone just thought he was overly meticulous. Now they weren't so sure. The Jenkins family, who had moved in only a few months ago, were the first to really start questioning things. Melissa Jenkins noticed how Mr. Langford never got packages from normal delivery services, no Amazon, no food deliveries, nothing casual. Instead, strange vans with no company names would pull up at odd hours and drop off unmarked boxes. Her husband tried striking up a conversation with one of the delivery men, just being friendly, but the guy avoided eye contact and left immediately. That's when curiosity turned into quiet concern. Even more unsettling were the visits. Every other Thursday, like clockwork, 3 men in suits would show up at Mr. Langford's house. They were always polite but carried themselves with the seriousness of people used to very private, very high-stakes meetings. They never stayed long, but neighbors noticed how afterward, Langford would disappear for hours, sometimes the whole day. Where he went, no one knew. He never shared details, and no one dared to ask. Then came the neighborhood-wide blackout. One Friday night, the entire block went dark for over 2 hours. Power company claimed it was a routine maintenance issue, but a few residents spotted something strange. Langford's house still had lights. Not only that, but someone said they saw movement on his roof, like a small satellite dish or antenna being adjusted. That same night, his backyard shed, which had always been locked tight, was left slightly ajar. Whispers turned into late-night text chains. People began comparing notes, piecing together patterns. Everyone had a theory, but no one had proof. Was he running some kind of covert operation? Was he in witness protection? Or was he using the HOA as a cover for something even bigger? Whatever the truth was, it was clear this wasn't just about neighborhood rules anymore. Something much deeper was hiding behind that calm suburban smile. As the neighborhood buzzed with theories, 2 residents decided to dig deeper. Melissa Jenkins and her teenage son, Tyler, being tech-savvy, had quietly saved a copy of the drone footage before it mysteriously vanished from his cloud storage. Late one night, he showed it to his mom again, zooming in on a faint outline of what looked like a metallic door beneath the shed. It didn't make sense. Who needs a hidden door in a backyard shed in the middle of a quiet suburb? That question alone kept Melissa up for days. Meanwhile, another angle began to unfold. Joe Franklin, an older resident who had lived there the longest, started remembering things from years back. He recalled how Mr. Langford's house had sold unusually fast, without ever going on the open market. There was never a moving truck. When he first arrived, just a sleek, black car that dropped him off one morning. Joe had shrugged it off, back then, but now it seemed, planted. Like the whole thing was arranged behind the scenes. And then there was Claire. The single mom 2 houses down. She worked nights as a nurse and often came home in the early morning hours. She'd seen strange shadows moving around Langford's property more than once, figures in dark clothing that didn't look like casual joggers or dog walkers. One night, she tried to take a picture, but her phone glitched and froze. It never did that before. Despite all this, Mr. Langford kept up his usual acts, smiling at morning walkers, issuing his weekly HOA updates, and pretending like everything was normal. But more and more residents started noticing the cracks. He didn't talk about his past. He never had visitors that stayed long. And there were no family pictures in his windows, no signs of a normal life. It was like he had been placed there, for a reason, and if that reason wasn't retirement, what was it? The HOA board, made up of a few longtime residents, began to argue among themselves. One member, Susan, thought it was none of their business. Let the man live, she'd say. But another board member, Pete, wanted answers. He proposed holding a special HOA audit, something they'd never done before. That suggestion sparked a quiet rebellion. A line was being drawn. Those who wanted to ignore the truth, and those who were ready to uncover it. As these threads pulled tighter, the neighborhood slowly realized this wasn't just about one man's secret, it was about what his presence meant, and what kind of danger or opportunity they were all living next to without even knowing it. It all came to a head, the night of the emergency HOA meeting. Pete had managed to rally just enough support to push through the special audit. Flyers were handed out, and nearly the entire neighborhood showed up, some out of curiosity, others with real concern. Mr. Langford.com, as ever, stood at the front table like nothing was out of place. But there was a different energy in the air, more eyes on him, fewer polite smiles. Tension buzzed through the room like static. Melissa sat near the front, heart racing. She had the drone footage on a flash drive in her purse, just in case. Tyler was in the back with a few of his friends, watching every movement Langford made. Claire had brought her notes, dates, times, and everything she'd seen on her early morning shifts. Even Joe, who usually kept to himself, was there, arms crossed and watching like a man trying to connect dots he didn't want to believe. Pete stood up and calmly asked Mr. Langford to provide financial records for the HOA. Nothing too invasive, the basics. But that simple request changed everything. Mr. Langford paused, blinked once, and gave a small smile. "I'm afraid that information is not available at this time," he said, voice smooth and steady. It wasn't the words that sent chills down the room. It was the way he said it, like it wasn't a denial, but a warning. That's when it started. The lights flickered, then cut out completely. Total blackout, just like the one a few weeks ago. Phones lost signal. Some neighbors tried turning on flashlights, but several wouldn't work. Panic started to ripple through the crowd. People muttered, trying to stay calm. And through the dim emergency exit light, Langford was already gone. Tyler ran outside, scanning the darkness. The shed in Langford's backyard had lights soft, bluish, pulsing like something alive. Melissa followed him, heart pounding. A few brave neighbors tagged along, whispering questions and theories. The back gate to Langford's yard was wide open. Claire, still inside the clubhouse, checked her phone. It had powered back on, but the only message on her screen was a single, unread notification. Stay out. It wasn't from any contact she recognized. Outside, as the group approached the shed, a low mechanical hum filled the air. The door, once sealed tight, was slightly open again, and from within they heard it voice, not shouting, not panicked, calm, confident, and foreign. They were close now, too close to turn back. Tyler's hand trembled as he reached for the shed door. The mechanical hum grew louder, vibrating through the ground like a quiet warning. Melissa grabbed his arm, her voice barely above a whisper. "We shouldn't be doing this," she said, eyes flicking between the dark yard and the strange blue glow pouring from the narrow crack. But it was too late. They had come this far, and turning back now felt more dangerous than stepping forward. The group of neighbors clustered behind them, hushed and watched. Joe kept glancing over his shoulder like he expected someone or something to appear out of the shadows. Pete, still clinging to his sense of logic, muttered, "This has to be some kind of tech setup. Nothing illegal, just weird." But no one really believed that anymore. Tyler finally pushed the door open, and what they saw froze everyone in place. The shed wasn't a shed at all. It was just a cover. Beneath it, a stairwell led deep underground, lined with polished steel and soft blue lighting. Along the walls were screens showing satellite feeds, maps, encrypted code far beyond anything a suburban HOA president should have access to. Melissa stepped down first, her breath catching in her throat as she spotted something that made no sense, a framed photo of Mr. Langford shaking hands with a high-level government official, not something taken from a newspaper or online. This was personal, close, and dated only 5 months ago, and then came the real twist. At the bottom of the stairs, a large glass panel separated the group from a sleek control room. Inside was Langford.com, and seated before a wall of monitors, speaking into a headset. The calm voices they had heard earlier were being translated multiple languages, multiple locations. But it was what appeared on the main screen that caused gasps to echo up the stairwell. There, in live video feed, was their own neighborhood, but from above. Not from a drone, but from something much higher. A satellite, a surveillance craft, whatever it was tracking people. Names and heat signatures hovered above residents' homes like a military op. Everyone stood frozen, trying to make sense of it. Then, one of the monitors lit up red. A blinking alert, unauthorized, entry base alpha, initiating lockdown. A loud hiss came from behind them, the shed door was closing on its own. They were trapped. And Langford, without even looking up, reached to press a button on the console. The stakes had just skyrocketed. And whatever this place really was, they were now in the center of it. The glass door between the neighbors and Langford slid open. With a quiet hiss, he stood slowly, his expression unreadable, and walked toward them with calm, measured steps. Tyler instinctively stepped in front of his mom, heart racing. The hum of machines continued behind Langford, filling the silence like a warning. "I told you to stay out," he said, voice low but steady. "But maybe it's time you knew the truth." Nobody spoke. The tension in the room was so thick it was hard to breathe. Langford looked around at the small group: Melissa, Pete, Joe, Claire, Tyler, and sighed like a man who'd been holding on to a secret for too long. "This isn't just a neighborhood," he said. "It's a cover. I'm not just running an HOA, I'm managing a protected intelligence site. Quiet surveillance. Nothing invasive, just precautionary. Surveillance." Claire stepped forward. "On who?" Langford tapped a screen. "Everyone, this block, the next, the county. Not because you're targets, but because someone nearby is. Someone we've been watching for years." He tapped another button, and the map zoomed in on a single house. Lot 1 for B. Melissa's house. Everyone turned to her. She looked stunned. "Me. Not you," Langford said. "Your husband, Stephen Jenkins. Or rather who he used to be." Melissa felt the ground shift beneath her. "He was an accountant. He was also a former analyst who went off the grid 10 years ago," Langford said. "He stole sensitive data, ever turned it in. We believed it was lost forever. Until he popped up here, under a new name, living a quiet life." He looked at her with something almost like sympathy. "We never meant to involve you. You were just in the blast radius." Just then, an alarm blared through the base. The screen showed movements, someone approaching from the north entrance, moving fast. Langford turned toward the monitor, face hardening. "They found us. Someone leaked the location." Pete stepped forward. "So what happens now?" Langford didn't answer. Instead, he opened a panel on the wall and pulled out a small case. Inside was a sleek device with a glowing button. "This is a signal jammer and scrambler. If I activate it, they won't be able to trace us for hours. But once I press it, this base wipes clean. All data gone. All footage erased, including what you saw." He looked at each of them. "I'll leave it up to you. You can walk out of here and forget everything. Or stay, and become part of something bigger. But either way, choose fast." And just before anyone could answer, the screen blinked. Once and showed a second camera feed, inside Melissa's home. Her husband, Stephen, was already watching them. The room went silent as everyone stared at the screen. There was Stephen, standing calmly in the middle of the Jenkins living room, eyes locked on the hidden camera feed. He didn't look surprised. In fact, he almost looked prepared. Langford narrowed his eyes. He knew we'd figure it out. He wanted you here. Off the grid, out of reach. He turned to Melissa. Did he say anything strange lately? Talk about leaving, changing jobs, anything? Melissa shook her head, overwhelmed. No, but he has been locking his office door. Late night calls. I thought it was stress. Outside, the sound of helicopters began to echo in the distance. Langford moved fast. He pressed the button on the device, and the control room lights dimmed too, a soft red. We've got about 20 minutes before this place wipes clean. That's enough time to walk out and start fresh. No names, no questions. But if you want to know everything, stay. He looked at them, offering the choice with surprising honesty. Pete and Joe exchanged a look. Pete stepped forward. I've had enough secrets for a lifetime. I'm going home. Joe nodded silently and followed. Claire lingered a moment longer, then gently squeezed Melissa's arm. You have to go to him. Not as a spy. As his wife. Melissa nodded, her hands still shaking. I just want the truth. Tyler stayed by her side. By the time they exited the underground base, the shed door had already sealed behind them. The lights were off. The hum was gone. Just another quiet backyard again, but everything had changed. When Melissa walked into her home, Stephen was still standing there. He turned slowly, like he'd been waiting a long time. You weren't supposed to find out like this, he said. I didn't even know there was anything to find, she whispered. He motioned for her to sit. And there, for the first time, he told her the truth. About the files, the betrayal. Why he ran. Why he chose this place. Why he chose her. Tyler listened, stunned, as the man he called Dad revealed the life he left behind to protect them. In the days that followed, the neighborhood went quiet again. Langford was gone. No one knew where the HOA was taken over by Pete, who surprisingly relaxed a few of the stricter rules. The shed it was bulldozed for safety reasons, but even as normal life returned, some neighbors kept watching the skies a little more closely. Because they now knew what everyone tends to forget, the billionaire next door isn't just rich. He's running from something bigger.